This is Stu's views on WandaVision. Now, WandaVision is Marvel's latest release, and I have to say it is the cinematic equivalent of Lucy pulling the football out from underneath Charlie Brown. All right? Because this show had so much like setup and build up and a foundation for something truly amazing, okay? Because Scarlet Witch, Wanda Maximoff as a character in the MCU, had a very rough start. I mean, when your character introduction is handled by Joss fucking Whedon, the bar is not that fucking high. And this show, had it had 9 fucking episodes to fully develop her as a character without the limitations of just being a background character in a Avengers movie. You know what I mean? And I feel like they just dropped the fucking ball. Not only did they drop the fucking ball, they set it up perfectly on the field, making it look like it was going to be like a fucking slam dunk home run across the fucking finish line. But then at the last minute, and we'll get to that, episode 9, they just, not only did they pull it out from underneath you right as you're about to kick it for satisfaction, they just, they take it and then they fucking throw it in the opposite direction and fucking hit the goal line of trash, which is what episode 9 ultimately is.
You can always be on my team, Charlie Brown.
I didn't know you had a team.
I'm just organizing it. All you have to do is come and kick the football to show me you can do it.
Not again. Does she really think I'm such a fool? Not again. Am I dumb enough to think she's gonna let me kick that football? I can't believe it. Not again. Am I really going to try it? Not again. I can't believe I'm trying it. Is it really happening again? Oh, no!
And again, Charlie Brown. And again, and again, and again.
I think to review the season in a more general and overview way, I feel like I want to start with the first 3 episodes. The first 3 episodes are very interesting because they're very bold, flawed, but extremely bold. I know when they first announced the show, and the initial trailer, we're seeing right here in the corner, it was very interesting because the idea of you have 9 episodes and each episode is its own era of television. This is Marvel's debut as a television series, to pay homage to all these iconic eras of television was a very interesting idea. And I feel like artistically it was such a, bold new direction for Marvel to go in. Once it's executed and I'm seeing the first 3 episodes, episodes 1 and 2 were released on Disney Plus at once. And then everything afterwards, you had to wait a week. And I feel like if they had released episodes 1 through 4, it would have been a much more satisfying narrative. At least that was my thinking when I was watching the series as it was going on. Once I got to episode 4, which was fantastic, I was like, holy shit, why didn't they just release all 4 at once? Because once you see episode 4, you start to appreciate the purpose of the first 2 episodes and even the 3rd episode. That's not what they did. And I feel like one criticism I will levy against the show was its weekly release. I feel like as a Stranger Things model, as far as you just drop all the episodes at once, you can binge through it almost like a long movie. Up until episode 9, episodes 1 through 8 would have been extremely satisfying and an amazing show. But I feel like just focusing in on the first couple of episodes 1 and 2, and most episodes in general all have this thing where at the end of the episode, right as something interesting is about to happen, it cuts to the next episode, which is, that weekly model. So if we, bunch it all into one release, you don't have to string the audience along. But not only that, it's the way they like, it feels like if you just had like the first episode and it's entirely in black and white, it's totally Dick Van Dyke tribute. I feel like I would have liked it personally if the whole thing was played 100%, sincere as a sitcom. And then you watch the second episode and it jumps. And I feel like you could have done a lot of like nuance and subtle like indications of the, it not being what it seems. Especially in the first episode, that whole like, stop, stop, stop. That's, it's interesting once we find out that it's Wanda causing this. So when she's begging Wanda to stop it, she's not begging her to stop it. She's begging her to stop doing it. I mean, that's good. But I feel like that scene was a little too out there for the rest of the episode. So it felt too out of place. And the same with the beekeeper. I feel like there should have been more of maybe even like a horror vibe of like just unsettling things feel out of place, but play these first couple episodes far more straight and serious. And not straight and serious, but like commit to that sitcom, commit to the comedy. You know what I mean? And then I feel like that's when you could like subvert it with episode 4, because when we are introduced to Monica in episode 4, episode 4 is a revelation. Episode 4 is truly a payoff for what we see at the end of Infinity War. I know when I saw Endgame, I was severely disappointed that we didn't spend like any time in the world that Thanos left with the snap. And then concurrently, after they snap back in like Far From Home, we don't spend any time with the ramifications of that. And I really liked taking a character that was in Captain Marvel, like Monica, and having that connective tissue to connect, the movies to the show. That was really good. And I think Monica stole the show when it came to episode 4. It's just very disappointing that Monica as a character, does not get to have a satisfying endpoint, because she had such an amazing start. That scene at the hospital was like a new level, especially for the show, when you had like, this what seemed to be an alternate reality, this otherworldly like setting of the first like 3 sitcoms, and then you subvert that with like the gritty reality of being snapped back or blipped back. I thought she was a great actress. I thought the special effects and the CGI, it was such a great juxtaposition of the like wires and the plates in the early episode, like episode 1, and then to see like high level CGI like reverse dusting. That was perfect. I loved it. However, once we're with Monica, that leads us to Sword, which I have a very complicated relationship with, because Sword is like the new Shield, and we already had this like storyline of how corruptible Shield was, and I feel like when it comes to Sword, we're just getting the entire Winter Soldier storyline again, where it's just like, well, there's an agency who says they're going to do good, but they're actually don't do bad. And it's just like, well, we've seen this, and I didn't need to see it in this show. I feel like they should have had Sword just as like an introducing, kind of like Shield and like Avengers, where it's just like, oh, they're an agency. Like you introduce Sword, so it's there, but and that's how you bring in Monica, who was a part of it. But I feel like beyond that, I feel like they should have like set up their tents outside to investigate what was going on. But I don't feel like they should have been ostensibly the villain of the show, because the problem with making Hayward and like Sword the villain is it takes the narrative agency and the conflict away from Wanda, which is where it should be. Wanda enslaving an entire town and hundreds, maybe even thousands of people should really be the focus of conflict, and it should be like Wanda is the focus of conflict, not Hayward or Sword. Um, I feel like as a response to whatever Wanda was doing in this show should have been bigger. I mean, this is the Marvel problem of Iron Man 3, Captain Marvel. All of Marvel's worst is, well, where is everyone else? And why wouldn't they help out later or now or before? So, you know, the Sorcerer Supreme, Doctor Strange, is supposed to keep tabs on everything related to magic on Earth. Um, and he doesn't. I mean, it's kind of like Green Lantern. If something happens on Earth, it's in Hal's jurisdiction. It's in the Green Lantern's jurisdiction. And he's supposed to take care of it. It's a huge letdown with the context of what the show was trying to accomplish and what Wanda was doing. It would have been great to have Doctor Strange be the one to come in and stop her. And you can make basically the show would be like this falling down character study of all this trauma building up, and Wanda being the villain, and then you could have Doctor Strange be the one to come stop it. But they want to have their cake and eat it too, and still have Wanda be a hero. And as disappointing as that is, even if they had still brought in Doctor Strange because it's magic related, it would have made more universe sense. But they don't. Fuck, even Marvel, Paul Bettany, the actor who plays the Vision, trolled the fans by teasing there's going to be an Avenger, a huge cameo actor who's going to be in the show. And what it really was just Vision playing other Vision. So you got everyone excited and hyped up for like, oh, it's going to be, Doctor Strange or whatever. And it's just literally just Vision who's already in the show. Just tragic. I feel like going into what we have with Sword and not what we should have had, but I really did like Jimmy Woo. I like that connective tissue to like Ant-Man, the way he introduced himself with the card. Darcy from the early Thor movies had some like funny moments in those movies, and I feel like she worked really well in this show, especially with its sitcom nature and her history as an actor in sitcoms. But all of this leads us to episode 8, which is what I really want to talk about, because episode 8 is really the reason why this show is such a fucking football, like being yanked, because episode 8 is that like mirage of the football being able to be kicked. Episode 8 is like so amazing. They basically take everything that you knew about the MCU, everything that Joss Whedon had fucked up, and they just start retconning everything. They're like, hey, the idea, oh my god, I remember when I watched Winter Soldier for the first time, and you get to the end credits, and then you see Magneto's children, who are mutants, and they fucking call them miracles. They just got their poweracles as miracles from this fucking stone. I was like, this is fucking horrible. But what I like is the retcon of Scarlet Witch having these powers, being born a witch, and actually, instead of having this defunct Tony Stark missile not explode, it's actually Wanda who stopped the explosion. And I feel like as a character motivation and a character study, there are so many interesting directions that you can go in when you explore that. Like the idea that you have all these powers, kind of like Superman, but you didn't know how to use them, and you couldn't save your parents, right? So you have that explosion that kills the parents, and then right as another explosion would have killed her brother, she's able to save it. So you live the rest of your life living with that like guilt of like, I could have, but I didn't know how. I mean, she couldn't have because she didn't know how, but like that the power was there. It just wasn't unlocked. It's such an interesting thing they could have explored more. But I mean, just in the context of episode 8, this is really amazing stuff. It really helps contextualize the importance of these sitcoms, so it's not just aesthetic. The idea that like this makes her like reminds her of her loved ones, all these sitcoms that she watched with her mother and her father and her brother, and even she shared that with Vision, which again is more retconning that they do. Because I know a problem that I had when I watched Civil War, when they started to have their romance, I was just like, it's just too quick. This failure of vignette storytelling that is the MCU, of just like, okay, two characters are created in Ultron, and then suddenly they're like having romantic like scenes in the next movie because they don't have the time to like show the stuff in between, is very disappointing. But showing like flashbacks in this episode that retroactively fill in those gaps was absolutely wonderful. And probably my favorite scene in the entire show is that scene between her and Vision of what is grief, what is like grief and loss, if not love persevering. Like that is such an amazing fucking line, and it would like make this property, make this show ascend so much further up the quality line than it is if it weren't for episode 9. But we'll get there. Continuing with the positive nature of episode 8, I liked Agatha. I liked Agnes, like, in this episode. And, like, in all the episodes before, Kathryn Hahn is an amazing actress. And I like the layers of, like, the fucking depths of grief and loss and, like, reliving that trauma. So much of which has been, like, suppressed by her, which is, like, it's pretty good metaphor for her powers also being suppressed, probably because you have scenes like, I mean, more even so than Superman, more so like Dr. Manhattan. You have a character that has the power to like, blip in and out of like areas in existence. And I feel like with her parents, where it exploded but didn't for the brother, I feel like later when he is shot, the powers that she can unlock about like, traveling in and out of like, areas, she could have quickly have she's probably faster than fucking Quicksilver just by the blip nature of her powers, where she could have saved him, but she didn't know how to do that yet. So just looking back on that, that's why it all gets fucking suppressed. But all of this just leads up to the abomination that is 9.